The Pride of Order hung in space like a shard of crystalline perfection, its geometric hull catching and refracting starlight in precise, calculated patterns. Inside the vessel's command center, High Commander Zixtal of the Zarkaxian Defense Fleet observed the approaching anomaly with growing concern. Their sensors had detected the unknown ship 27 minutes ago, and nothing about it followed protocol. Analysis complete, High Commander. First Analyst Vera reported, their crystalline form pulsing with confused patterns of light. The vessel appears to be deliberately asymmetrical. Our computers are having difficulty determining if it's damaged or simply designed by madmen. Commander Jessica Havoc Reynolds lounged in her captain's chair aboard the TES Pandora, one leg thrown over the armrest in flagrant violation of proper military posture. She watched the alien vessel through the main viewport, admiring how it sparkled like a giant space diamond. The corner of her mouth twitched upward as she imagined the chaos about to unfold. "Ma'am," Lieutenant Sarah Echo Parker called from the communication station. "They're broadcasting their first contact package. It's very organized. Thousands of pages of protocols, submission procedures, and required forms. They want us to fill everything out in triplicate." Reynolds straightened in her chair, but only slightly. "Send them our first contact package, Echo. The special one." Sarah's fingers danced across her console, her grin matching her commander's. "Rolling Rick in 3, 2, 1. Aboard the Pride of Order. The Zarkaxian Command Center erupted in confusion as their communications array was flooded with an ancient Earth video transmission. The crystalline displays showed a human male with carefully styled hair, dancing in a pattern that their war computers couldn't classify as either combat or ceremonial. "Never gonna give you up." The transmission blared across all frequencies. "Never gonna let you down." "High Commander," Vera's voice cracked with distress. "Our systems are detecting what appears to be music being broadcast from external speakers on the human vessel. The vibrations don't match any known weapon signature, but they're somehow interfering with our crystalline resonance patterns." Zixtal's perfect posture faltered for the first time in 3 centuries. "Impossible. No species would be foolish enough to waste energy on external audio in space. It defies all logic." The TES Pandora's engines flared to life, the blue glow pulsing in rhythm with the bass line of "Welcome to the Jungle" as it now blasted across all frequencies. The human ship began to move in a pattern that caused multiple Zarkaxian probability computers to crash simultaneously. "Are they?" Vera's voice trembled, dancing. "Shields at maximum," Reynolds commanded, though her crew noted she was tapping her foot to the beat. "Helm, show them the Hudson Special." Navigation Officer Derek Wheels Hudson cracked his knuckles and grabbed the manual controls. "Time to make physics cry, Commander." The Pandora spun on its axis, performing what could only be described as a cosmic pirouette, all while maintaining its forward momentum. The maneuver violated 7 different laws of inertia and caused 3 Zarkaxian scientists to request immediate retirement. "Human vessel," Zixtal broadcast, their voice straining to maintain its crystalline perfection. "Your actions violate 62 sections of the Standard Space Navigation Code. Submit to our authority immediately or—" "Sorry, couldn't hear you over the sound of how awesome we are," Reynolds interrupted, her voice carrying the same casual tone someone might use to order coffee. "Hey, quick question. Your ships are made of crystal, right? Anyone ever tell you about the brown note?" The color drained from Vera's crystalline form. "High Commander, they're modulating their bass frequencies to match our hull resonance. They can't possibly." The first notes of what humans knew as dubstep shook the Pride of Order like a cosmic earthquake. Crystalline crew members vibrated in their stations, their perfect formations dissolving into chaos as the Pandora began what its crew would later describe as the biggest dance battle the galaxy has ever seen. First contact protocol had officially gone wrong in the most human way possible. Lieutenant Mike Mad Dog Martinez wiped coffee-stained hands on his already stained uniform as he sprinted through the Pandora's engineering deck. The ship's vibrations from their impromptu dance battle had knocked over his precious modified coffee maker, but the accident had given him an idea so crazy it just might work. "Chief," called out Petty Officer Rachel Sparks Wilson from beneath a tangle of wires. "The aliens are trying to scan our engine configuration again. Should I show them the real specs, or the ones you drew on that napkin last night?" Martinez grinned, grabbing a handful of spare parts from a bin labeled Weird Science Storage. "Send them the napkin drawings, but add some coffee stains. Make it look authentic." Aboard the Pride of Order, First Analyst Vera's crystalline form flickered with increasing distress as they attempted to make sense of the human engine schematics. "High Commander, according to these documents, their probability drive is powered by something called caffeine-induced quantum instability." "Impossible," Zixtal declared, though with noticeably less certainty than before. No civilized species would build their technology around a chemical stimulant addiction. The Zarkaxian computers struggled to process the incoming data. The human ship's power readings fluctuated wildly, seeming to spike every time someone in engineering consumed what their database now identified as coffee. More baffling still, the ship's efficiency appeared to increase with each violation of the laws of thermodynamics. Back on the Pandora, Martinez connected the last wire to his hastily assembled device. The contraption, cobbled together from a broken coffee maker, spare quantum computing parts, and what appeared to be a modified disco ball, hummed to life with an ominous whir. "Mad Dog to bridge," he called out. "Probability Scrambler is online. Fair warning, Commander. I have no idea what this thing actually does, but it seemed like a good idea after my 6th espresso." Commander Reynolds' laugh echoed through the comm system. "Send it, Mad Dog. Let's show these crystal ships why they call it chaos theory." Martinez threw the switch. The device pulsed with an eerily familiar rhythm, the beat of "Another One Bites the Dust," somehow translated into quantum fluctuations. Throughout the Pride of Order, precision instruments began displaying impossible readings. Perfect formations wavered as probability itself seemed to hiccup. "High Commander," Vera's voice cracked with panic. "Their ship it's simultaneously following and breaking every known law of physics. The probability matrices can't compute their next position because they're somehow existing in a state of quantum uncertainty powered by music and caffeine." The Pandora's communications officer Emily Static Thompson seized the moment, her fingers flying across her console. "Commander, I'm picking up their command frequencies. Permission to initiate protocol. Greatest hits." "Make it so, Static. Let's introduce them to humanity's finest cultural achievements." The Zarkaxian command network suddenly found itself flooded with centuries of human music. Classical symphonies collided with rock anthems, jazz improvisation tangled with electronic beats, creating a cascade of chaos that sent the aliens' rigid computational systems into revolt. "Their combat computers are trying to find patterns in the music to predict our movements," Thompson reported, barely containing her laughter. "They've started analyzing human music theory to understand our battle strategies." Martinez watched from engineering as his probability scrambler synchronized with the music, creating a feedback loop of pure chaos. The Zarkaxian ships began moving in increasingly erratic patterns, their perfect formation dissolving as human unpredictability infected their systems. "Status report," Zixtal demanded, their crystalline form vibrating with barely contained confusion. "High Commander," a junior analyst reported, "we're detecting traces of something called funk in our mainframe. It's making the crew want to dance." The Pride of Order's perfectly ordered bridge descended into chaos as crystalline officers found themselves unable to resist the rhythm. Tactical displays showed their fleet's formation transforming into what looked suspiciously like a conga line. Martinez leaned back in engineering, sipping his 9th coffee of the day. "You know," he mused to no one in particular, "I bet if we reversed the polarity on this thing, we could probably make their ships dance the Macarena." Commander Reynolds' voice crackled over the comm. "Mad Dog, I love the way you think. Let's show these aliens how humans party." Weapons Officer Jack "Lucky" O'Connor stared at his tactical display with the kind of grin that made superior officers nervous. The Pandora's weapon systems were already unusual by military standards. He'd personally modified them based on his grandmother's prize-winning quilt patterns. Now, with Martinez's probability scrambler affecting local spacetime, things were about to get interesting. "Commander," he called out, fingers hovering over the controls, "remember that theory I had about using synchronized weapon patterns to create a light show that could pierce their shields?" Reynolds leaned forward in her chair. "The one you came up with during game night, when you were losing at Connect 4. That's the one. Permission to attempt the O'Connor orbital quilt special. Lucky, if you can turn my ship's weapons into a deadly quilting pattern, I'll personally recommend you for the most ridiculous success in combat metal." The Pride of Order's tactical officer, Vertix, watched in growing horror as their sensors detected the human ship's weapon systems powering up in a pattern that made absolutely no tactical sense. Energy signatures danced across their screens in swirling, interlocking designs that somehow reminded them of their podbearer's favorite blanket. "High Commander," Vertix reported, their crystalline form trembling. "Their weapon configuration appears to be decorative. The pattern resembles something called a double wedding ring design, but with plasma torpedoes." Zixtol's response was cut short as the Pandora unleashed its attack. Streams of energy weapons and torpedoes wove through space in impossible patterns, creating a deadly tapestry of destruction. The Zarkaxian geometric shields, designed to block traditional attack vectors, found themselves trying to defend against what appeared to be an armed quilting bee. "Their shields are based on perfect geometric patterns," O'Connor explained, his hands dancing across the controls like a concert pianist. "But quilt patterns, they're all about controlled chaos and artistic interpretation. My grandma always said there's no shield in the universe that can stop a well-made quilt." The tactical display erupted in a symphony of light and energy as the attack connected. Zarkaxian shields flickered and failed, their perfect crystalline geometry, unable to compute a defense against weapons guided by the principles of handicraft and human creativity. "Status report," Zixtal demanded as their ship shuddered. "High Commander," Vertix responded, their voice carrying a note of bewilderment. "Our shields are being sewn apart. The humans are somehow using weapon patterns based on ancient textile arts to unpick our defensive matrices." Reynolds watched with satisfaction as O'Connor's attack created havoc among the alien fleet. "Static. Pipe, another one bites the dust directly into their command frequency. Lucky, show them your grandmother's blue ribbon winner." O'Connor's face lit up. "The Starburst supernova pattern. Commander, that one's not even tested. No time like the present. Lucky. Make your grandma proud." The weapons officer cracked his knuckles and began implementing a firing pattern that he'd sketched on a napkin during last week's poker night. The Pandora's weapons systems reconfigured themselves into an even more complex pattern, this one inspired by a quilt that had won first place at the Iowa State Fair 3 years running. Aboard the Pride of Order, the tactical displays dissolved into chaos as they attempted to track the incoming attack pattern. The human weapons moved in spirals and starbursts, creating a deadly geometry that somehow violated every principle of proper combat their civilization had developed over millennia. "Their attack pattern," Vertix announced in disbelief. "It's beautiful." The starburst supernova pattern struck home, its overlapping fields of fire creating a cascade of shield failures across the Zarkaxian fleet. Ships spun out of formation, their crews too mesmerized by the deadly artistry to maintain proper combat stance. "Direct hit," O'Connor whooped, punching the air. Grandma O'Connor's quilting patterns strike again. Who knew her log cabin variation would make such a great torpedo spread? Commander Reynolds allowed herself a small chuckle. "I think it's time we show them the real reason they call you Lucky. How about that special pattern you designed after losing at Jenga?" O'Connor's grin widened to dangerous proportions. "You mean the tipsy tower tumbler pattern?" "Commander, That's just mean. He paused for dramatic effect. I love it. Initiating quilt-based combat sequence, Alpha Patchwork Omega. A crystalline beam sliced through the Pandora's hull, penetrating Deck C, and striking what could have been any other compartment. It could have hit the auxiliary power, the backup life support, or even the recreational ping-pong arena. Instead, it hit the worst possible location, the ship's main coffee storage. The reaction throughout the Pandora was instantaneous. Warning klaxons blared a distinctive tone that every crew member recognized with horror: the coffee emergency alert. Direct hit to the mess hall. Lieutenant Sarah Parker's voice carried an edge of panic. Coffee reserves at 60% and falling. The primary espresso machine is, her voice cracked. It's down. Commander Reynolds stood from her chair, her casual demeanor evaporating. They've done it now. All hands, initiate Coffee Protection Protocol Delta. Dr. Foster, get to the mess hall. Save what you can. Chief Medical Officer Dr. Amanda Patch Foster was already running, her medical kit in one hand and an emergency coffee filtration system in the other. She burst into the damaged mess hall, assessing the situation with practiced efficiency. This is Dr. Foster. We have ground coffee exposed to vacuum. Beginning emergency preservation procedures. She pulled out her medical bay's quantum scanner, originally designed for detailed cellular analysis. Martinez, I need engineering support. We're about to do something incredibly stupid and brilliant. In the ship's engineering section, Martinez was already one step ahead. On my way, Doc. Bringing the prototype quantum coffee accelerator. We've got one shot at this. The Zarkaxian fleet watched in confusion as the human ship suddenly altered its behavior. The erratic dance patterns shifted, becoming more aggressive, more focused. High Commander Zixtal observed the change with growing unease. Analysis of the human vessel shows increased power readings, Vera reported. They appear to be rerouting all non-essential power to their medical bay. Their efficiency ratings are climbing exponentially. Inside the Pandora's damaged mess hall, Foster and Martinez worked with fevered intensity. The quantum scanner, now modified with coffee brewing components and parts from 3 different food replicators, hummed ominously. Standard medicine would say this is impossible, Foster muttered, calibrating the device. But standard medicine never had to deal with coffee-deprived humans in combat. Martinez connected the last power coupling. Ready, Doc. The quantum coffee accelerator is online. If this works, we'll not only save our coffee supply, we'll improve it. The device activated, enveloping the scattered coffee grounds in a field of quantum uncertainty. Within the field, each coffee molecule existed in a superposition of states, simultaneously roasted to every possible perfect degree. Energy readings are off the charts. Martinez called out. The coffee is achieving quantum coherence. It's beautiful. The Zarkaxians watched in bewilderment as their sensors detected an unprecedented energy surge from the human vessel. The readings made no sense. Their scientists had never seen such a perfect merger of quantum physics and beverage chemistry. High Commander, Vera's voice shook. The humans have somehow weaponized their stimulant dependency. The efficiency of their entire crew has increased by 300%. The quantum-enhanced coffee spread throughout the Pandora's crew distribution system. As each crew member received their enhanced ration, the ship's performance metrics soared. Reaction times shortened. Innovation rates skyrocketed. The probability of successful impossible maneuvers approached unity. Coffee reserves restored and enhanced. Foster reported triumphantly. The quantum superposition created the perfect roast. Every cup is simultaneously light, medium, and dark roast until observed by the drinker. Reynolds took a sip from her quantum-enhanced coffee and smiled. It was the smile of someone who had just tasted perfection and was ready to share it with the universe, whether the universe wanted it or not. Weapons, target their primary crystalline matrix, she ordered. Let's show them what humans can do when you threaten our coffee supply. Martinez, reroute the quantum harmonics from the coffee accelerator into our shield grid. Foster, prepare for mass production. I think we just invented humanity's greatest contribution to galactic civilization. The Pandora's weapons charged up, now powered by the most potent force in human history. Perfectly quantum-accelerated coffee combined with the rage of caffeine-deprived humans defending their supply. Navigation Officer Ryan Crash Cooper took a long sip of his quantum-enhanced coffee, his eyes gleaming with the kind of inspiration that usually preceded either brilliance or disaster. In his experience, the two were often the same thing. "Commander," he called out, fingers dancing across his console, "remember that theory I had about weaponizing Murphy's Law? I think now's the time." Reynolds raised an eyebrow. "The one you came up with after that shore leave incident with the flamingo, the rubber duck, and the ambassador's wig." "Exactly. Everything that can go wrong will go wrong. But if we plan for it to go wrong, then technically it's going right according to plan." The Zarkaxian fleet maintained their formation, their crystalline ships arranging themselves in mathematically perfect patterns. Their tactical computers calculated every possible way the human vessel could attack, based on logical combat doctrine and rational strategy. They weren't prepared for Operation Murphy. "All hands," Reynolds announced, "prepare for tactical plan. Whatever could go wrong. Engineering, start breaking things correctly." In engineering, Martinez grinned maniacally. Finally, permission to deliberately misalign the quantum harmonics in exactly the wrong way. Granted. Weapons, target their fleet with the worst possible aim. O'Connor cracked his knuckles. "You mean like that time I tried to shoot Skeet after drinking 5 energy drinks?" "Can do." The Pandora's engine sputtered and coughed in a carefully orchestrated pattern of malfunctions. Warning lights flashed in sequences that somehow matched the beat of Highway to Hell. Equipment failures cascaded through systems in ways that shouldn't have worked but somehow did. "High Commander." Vera's crystalline form flickered in distress. "The human ship appears to be experiencing catastrophic systems failures across all decks. But they're using the failures to move in ways our targeting systems can't predict." Zixtal watched in horror as the Pandora barrel rolled through space, trailing sparks and leaking plasma in patterns that their best tacticians couldn't comprehend. Each malfunction seemed to propel the ship in exactly the right direction to avoid their fire. "Their weapon systems are misfiring," Vertix reported, then paused. "No, they're intentionally misfiring in ways that hit our weak points. It's like they're using accidents as a targeting system." Cooper orchestrated the chaos from his navigation console, now decorated with rubber ducks for optimal probability manipulation, initiating the "what's the worst that could happen" maneuver. "Brace for intentional user error." The Pandora spun through space like a drunken ballerina, each system failure contributing to a dance of destruction that defied both physics and common sense. Quantum coffee-powered crew members worked in perfect chaotic harmony, turning every potential disaster into an advantage. "They've adapted," Vera screamed. "The humans are using our predictive algorithms against us. Every time we calculate where they should fail, they succeed by failing differently." Reynolds watched as her crew orchestrated the perfect storm of controlled chaos. The quantum coffee had enhanced their natural ability to function in absurdity, turning the Pandora into a symphony of strategic disaster. "Status report," she called out, fighting back a grin as another accidental plasma leak took out 2 enemy gun emplacements. "Everything's going wrong exactly according to plan," Cooper reported cheerfully. "We've achieved peak Murphy's Law efficiency. The worse we do, the better it works." The pride of Order's perfectly calibrated tactical displays dissolved into confusion as they tried to track the Pandora's movements. Every probability calculation failed as the human ship turned maritime superstition and workplace safety violations into tactical advantages. "Their next failure should be catastrophic," Zixtal predicted, clinging to logical analysis. "No ship can sustain this level of systematic malfunction." "That's where you're wrong," Reynolds muttered, sipping her quantum coffee. "Humans don't just expect things to go wrong. We plan for it. Cooper, show them your piece de resistance. Initiating the hold my coffee and watch this protocol, Cooper announced, punching in commands that would make any safety inspector faint. Preparing for the most spectacular series of mistakes ever to be classified as a military strategy. The Pandora's crew braced themselves as Cooper prepared to demonstrate why humanity's greatest strength wasn't their technology or their determination, but their ability to turn absolute chaos into an art form. The Zarkaxian data analysts thought they'd scored a major victory when they managed to breach the Pandora's database. Their most advanced cryptographic systems worked tirelessly to decrypt what they assumed would be classified military data. What they found instead defied explanation. High Commander, First Analyst Viewer reported, their crystalline form stuttering with confusion. We've successfully accessed their tactical database, but they paused, processing. It appears to be filled with something called memes and cat videos. On the Pandora's bridge, Communications Officer Emily Static Thompson noticed the intrusion and grinned. Commander, they took the bait. They're accessing our special cultural archive. Reynolds smiled. Execute protocol. Information overload. Let's show them why you never go full internet. Thompson's fingers flew across her console as she initiated what the crew had dubbed the Memetic Warfare Suite. Years of human internet culture began flooding into the Zarkaxian command network. First wave deployed, Thompson announced, starting with early 2010s classics. Nyan Cat is go for launch. The Pride of Order's command center erupted in chaos as their displays, filled with a rainbow-trailing feline, singing an endless loop of nonsensical sounds. Their quantum processors, designed to analyze complex battlefield data, attempted to find military significance in the repeating pattern. High Commander, a junior analyst called out in panic. Our systems are detecting thousands of variations of the same image, each with slightly different text overlaid. They appear to be utilizing some form of memetic evolution in their information warfare. Zixtal watched in horror as their command screens filled with pictures of what appeared to be a grumpy terrestrial feline, each accompanied by increasingly nihilistic statements about Mondays and lasagna. Their best military AIs attempted to decode what they assumed was an encrypted battle strategy. Sir, Vera reported, their voice trembling. Our linguistic computers are trying to analyze something called LOL speak. They're beginning to format their reports in impact font. Meanwhile, the Pandora's crew was running on a potent mixture of quantum coffee and pure spite. The engine room had plastered their walls with printouts of the Zarkaxian surrender demands, each marked with increasingly creative annotations. Deploying second wave, Thompson called out, releasing the entire history of Rickrolls, with special emphasis on the HD remaster. The Zarkaxian command network shuddered under the assault. Their perfectly ordered data streams became clogged with what appeared to be an endless supply of humans behaving irrationally for internet points. Their tactical computers began displaying error messages in Comic Sans. They're sending us something called YouTube poop, Vera announced, their crystalline surface clouding with confusion. Our cultural analysis systems are attempting to find coherent meaning. 3 substations have already crashed. Reynolds took a sip of her quantum coffee. Time for the killing blow. Static. Show them the power of human creativity at its finest. Deploy the entire collection of This Is Fine Dog memes. The effect was instantaneous. The Zarkaxian command network, attempting to reconcile the image of a calm canine in a burning room with their understanding of appropriate crisis response, began experiencing cascading logical failures. High Commander, Vera's voice cracked with panic. Our crew is beginning to generate their own memes. The infection is spreading. Someone in engineering just created an image macro about our battle formation with a caption reading, "IUNO DODG." Thompson watched her displays with satisfaction as the Zarkaxian communication channels descended into chaos. They're starting to communicate in reaction GIFs, Commander. I don't think their society was ready for the full force of human internet culture. The Pride of Order's formerly pristine bridge had devolved into what humans would recognize as a typical social media comment section. Crystalline officers were attempting to communicate through a combination of ancient meme formats and increasingly surreal variants of loss. Status report, Reynolds commanded, trying to hide her amusement. Their entire command structure is now operating on what appears to be vibe checks, Thompson reported. Their battle computers are stuck in an infinite loop trying to determine whether it's Wednesday, my dudes. Martinez's voice crackled over the comm. Commander, you're not going to believe this, but they just responded to our last tactical warning with "No you." Dr. Amanda Foster stared at the readings from her modified medical scanner with a kind of gleam in her eyes that usually preceded scientific breakthroughs or spectacular explosions. The quantum-enhanced coffee had exceeded all expectations, and now it was time for the grand final. Commander, she called out, remember that theory about quantum entanglement and coffee particles? Well, the quantum harmonics from our enhanced brew have reached critical resonance. We can now exist in multiple combat positions simultaneously. Reynolds sat forward in her chair. You're telling me we can pull off Schrödinger's starship? Better. Foster's excitement was palpable. We can become a quantum superposition of every battle maneuver simultaneously until observed. The Zarkaxians won't know what hit them because we'll be hitting them with everything and nothing at once. In engineering, Martinez was already reconfiguring the ship's systems, converting our coffee quantum drive to full probability matrix mode. Warning, this might make reality a bit jazzy. The Pride of Order's sensors went haywire as the Pandora began to shift into quantum uncertainty. The human ship flickered in and out of normal spacetime, leaving trails of possibility in its wake. High Commander, Vera's voice cracked with panic. The human vessel is everywhere and nowhere. Their quantum coffee harmonics are creating a cascade of combat possibilities. O'Connor's weapons console lit up like a Christmas tree on energy drinks. Quantum targeting matrix online. Each shot exists in a superposition of all possible attack patterns until observed. Grandma's quilting patterns are about to get weird. They're attempting something impossible, Zixtal declared, watching as their perfect formation faced a ship that refused to commit to a single location in spacetime. Reynolds smiled, taking a sip of her quantum coffee. The liquid simultaneously existed as every perfect roast until she observed it. All hands, prepare for operation. Grande final. Cooper, show them why they call you Crash. Cooper's hands danced across his navigation controls, now augmented by quantum probability fields. Initiating the Heisenberg uncertainty maneuver. We're about to be absolutely certain about our momentum and completely uncertain about our position. The Pandora burst into action, or rather, into every possible action at once. The ship performed a ballet of quantum combat that made the laws of physics file a formal complaint. Classical mechanics threw up their hands and went on strike. Thompson, monitoring communications, laughed as she reported, "The Zarkaxians are trying to calculate our next move, but their computers keep returning yes, no, and maybe simultaneously." Foster's voice came over the comm. "The quantum coffee reaction is reaching peak efficiency. We're achieving perfect harmony between caffeine jitters and quantum uncertainty." The Zarkaxian fleet watched in horror as the Pandora seemed to split into multiple probability shadows, each one executing a different impossible maneuver. One version performed a perfect barrel roll while another broke dance moved through their formation. A third appeared to be having tea time in the middle of the battlefield. "Their tactical pattern," Vera exclaimed. It's simultaneously a waltz, a quantum equation, and what appears to be the choreography to something called Stayin' Alive. Martinez's voice crackled with excitement. "Commander, the quantum coffee harmonics are synchronizing with our musical warfare. Permission to initiate the bass drop of destiny. Make it so, Mad Dog. Let's show them what happens when you mix quantum physics with a sick beat." The Pandora's external speakers erupted with a combination of classical music and heavy metal, each note existing in quantum superposition until it hit the Zarkaxian ship's crystalline hulls. The resulting harmonic resonance made their formation dance in ways that violated at least 7 laws of physics and 3 local ordinances. Status report. Reynolds called out, watching as reality itself struggled to keep up with human ingenuity. We're simultaneously winning, losing, and breaking for coffee. Cooper reported cheerfully. The quantum uncertainty is at maximum chaos levels. Also, I think we just invented a new form of physics. Should I name it after my cat? The Pride of Order's tactical display gave up trying to track the Pandora and instead started playing a quantum version of Pong. Their formation, once a marvel of geometric perfection, had devolved into what looked suspiciously like a conga line through spacetime. High Commander Zixtal stared at the quantum coffee-stained napkin that now served as the foundation for an interstellar peace treaty. The perfectly ordered bridge of the Pride of Order had been transformed into what the humans called a break room, complete with a hastily installed coffee maker that somehow violated 3 laws of thermodynamics. More coffee, High Commander. Commander Reynolds offered, holding up a pot of the quantum-enhanced brew. I promise this batch won't make you exist in multiple probability states, probably. The crystalline commander's surface rippled with what might have been amusement. I must admit, Commander Reynolds, your species' approach to warfare is uniquely effective. We've never encountered anyone who turned chaos itself into both a weapon and a diplomatic tool. Around them, human and Zarkaxian crew members mingled, sharing stories and memes. In one corner, Martinez was explaining the finer points of coffee-powered quantum engineering to a group of fascinated alien scientists, using a series of increasingly ridiculous hand gestures and what appeared to be interpretive dance. You see, he explained, drawing diagrams with coffee rings on a napkin. The secret is to make the impossible so probable that it loops back around to being inevitable. Also, the coffee has to be at exactly 42 degrees Celsius. Trust me, it's important. Dr. Foster had set up an impromptu medical exchange program, demonstrating how quantum-enhanced coffee could be used for everything from emergency power generation to treating the common cold. The side effects are minimal, she assured her crystalline colleagues. The occasional temporal hiccup is barely noticeable, and the tendency to spontaneously break into dance numbers usually wears off in a few days. O'Connor had attracted a crowd of Zarkaxian tactical officers who watched in fascination as he demonstrated his grandmother's quilt-based combat patterns using a makeshift model made of coffee stirrers and sugar packets. The key is to make the pattern just random enough to be unpredictable, but organized enough to look good on a bed. Works for both quilts and space battles. Your civilization's achievements are remarkable, Vera admitted, examining a cup of quantum coffee that somehow managed to be both empty and full until observed. We've spent millennia perfecting order, while you've mastered the art of controlled chaos. Thompson had introduced several Zarkaxian communications officers to human music, resulting in the galaxy's first crystal jazz metal fusion band. The impromptu concert featured quantum-harmonized crystalline resonance accompanied by power chords and what sounded suspiciously like a coffee maker being used as a percussion instrument. We're calling ourselves the Quantum Percolators, one of the Zarkaxian officers announced proudly, their crystalline form pulsing in rhythm with the bass line. Cooper, meanwhile, had started teaching a group of alien navigators the fine art of Murphy's Law navigation. Remember, he instructed, if you're absolutely certain something will go wrong, you can rely on it going wrong, which technically makes it go right. Just don't think about it too hard, or you'll break causality. Reynolds and Zixtal watched their crews mingle, the former chaos and order blending into something new and unprecedented. The peace treaty on the napkin included provisions for cultural exchange programs, joint research into quantum coffee-powered technology, and a galaxy-wide battle dance competition. I must ask, Zixtal ventured, did you plan for this outcome from the beginning? Reynolds grinned, raising her coffee cup in a toast. "High Commander, if there's one thing you should understand about humans, it's that we never quite plan anything. We just create the right kind of chaos and ride the wave. Sometimes that wave leads to battle, sometimes to friendship, and sometimes to inventing physics-defying coffee. The fun part is finding out which." The newly formed Humans Arcaxian Jazz Band struck up a tune that somehow combined quantum harmonics, crystal resonance, and the beat of "Another One Bites the Dust." Crew members from both ships found themselves swaying to the rhythm, their movements creating patterns that would have given physics professors headaches. To chaos and order, Zixtel proposed, raising their own cup of quantum coffee. To coffee and friendship, Reynolds replied. And to whatever impossible thing we'll invent next. I'm thinking quantum-powered dance clubs might be nice. As the celebration continued, the stars themselves seemed to twinkle in rhythm with the music, the universe apparently deciding that if you couldn't beat human chaos, you might as well join in the dance.